What is up, everybody? It's your man Steady Chaos. This is Steady Chaos Productions, and tonight I wanted to go over some benchmarks for this beastly brand new RYZEN 3950X 2080 Super build that I just unboxed on my channel for you guys 2 days ago. If you haven't seen that video yet, I will certainly leave a link in the description below so you can check it out. So yeah, the last, I'd say, 24 to 36 hours, I've really been running this PC through its paces. I've been running all kinds of benchmarks from Cinebench to 3D Mark with Time Spy and Firestrike, and running the Haven benchmark. So I have all kinds of charts and graphs to go over with you guys to give you an idea of how this PC performs, both graphically and from a CPU standpoint. Was it a worthy upgrade? How does this fare against the competition? And also I have a few charts comparing my brand new build to my older, almost 8-year-old now, 2013 i7 4700 build with a GTX 1660. So we'll give you an idea of graphically and CPU wise with Cinebench how that old PC compares to my brand new RYZEN 3950X PC build. So without further delay, let's jump right into these numbers and geek the F out, shall we? Alright guys, so I have my desktop up now and we have 7 charts here to go over that I've made. So the first 3 charts will be comparing my 2013 i7 4700 GTX 1660 build, which is about 8 years old now, like I said, against my brand new RYZEN 3950X 2080 Super build. So the first one is going to be comparing the CPUs. So let's open that up right now. I used Cinebench. Now, if you are interested in using any of these benchmark programs, they are all free to download and use. I will leave links in the description below if you are interested in downloading them. So here we see the CPU Cinebench Benchmark. So my i7 4770 is a quad core. It scored a 1641 on Cinebench. And that is basically testing the rendering capabilities of your CPU. And on my 3950X, we see down here, it scored a 9400. So basically, the RYZEN 3950X, when it comes to rendering and processing power, it has about 5.7 times the power of my 2013 i7 4770. That's a pretty solid boost. I was expecting somewhere between, I'd say, 5 to 8 times the power gains over the 4770 with my 3950, and I certainly wasn't disappointed, so that was good to see. In our next chart, we're looking at 3D Mark, which is more of a measure of graphical capability, which kind of takes into account the GPUs and the CPUs to some extent, but more the GPU. So here we have now these are all stock, nothing is overclocked here. We have the 2013 i7 4770 down here, and we have the stock 3950X 2080 Super up here. So the first category we'll look at is in the blue here. We have the 3D Mark Time Spy render. So the 4770 came out at a respectable 4922, and the 3950X came out at 11707. So you're looking at only about a 2.5 times gain there. So not as much of a gain, but that's not particularly surprising because my older PC has a GTX 1660, which is a solid mid-range GPU, and the 2080 Super is I'd say it's a mid to high-end GPU. So you're not looking at staggering gains here like you saw with the previous chart with the CPU, the Ryzen being roughly 6 times stronger or more powerful than the 4770. And then another render test, 3D Mark Firestrike. And we have the 4770 coming in at around 10,899, and the 3950X with the 2080 Super coming in around 25,804. So again, about 2.5 times the performance over my older PC. So you have solid GPU gains. And the next chart we use the Haven benchmark. Again, Haven is a program that you can just Google and you can download for free and you can use it. It's really easy and straightforward to use. I'd recommend you check it out if you are the least bit interested in benchmarks. So here we see the Haven score from my 2013 PC 1555, and on my stock 2020 brand new RYZEN build 3537. So again, about a 2 to 3 times power gain, 2.5 more like it. But this is pretty consistent. The GPU seems to be about 2 to 3 times more powerful on my new build, the 2080 Super, as opposed to my older build, the GTX 1660, which is about what I expected. And my new CPU, the RYZEN 3950X, is about 5 to 6 times more powerful than my 7-year-old CPU, the 4770. So when you look at those numbers, you say to yourself, is it a worthy upgrade? You know, you have a PC that is about 7.5 years old in the i7 4770 with the GTX 1660. It still performed pretty well. It was great for web browsing. It was great for, I'd say, mid-range gaming at 1440p and 1080p to get between 60 and 100 frames. It certainly wasn't a useless PC by any stretch, but I found that with even 1440p and 4K video editing, especially 4K video editing, the older 4770 was freezing. It was kicking me out of DaVinci Resolve. Sometimes the computer was simply crashing. It just could not handle the 4K load. Now that I've been using my new RYZEN 3950X with 16 cores and 32 threads, I've got to say, it is buttery smooth using DaVinci Resolve and doing 4K video editing. Real-time video editing prior to any sort of render, just manipulating the clips, moving them around. It is so much more responsive. There's no skipping, there's no lag, so you can edit with ease. So rendering times have been cut down dramatically with my new PC. We're talking 3-4 times faster. So certainly a worthy upgrade when it comes to rendering videos using DaVinci Resolve. And also another big upgrade is just the internet. Web browsing is more snappy. Certainly does a better job playing 8K video on YouTube, I will say that. My older build could play 8K video, but it often, if you went to the stats on the video on YouTube, you'd see that it was dropping a lot of frames. Now with the new build, we dropped 0 frames. I watched an 8K video for like 2 or 3 minutes. Not one frame was dropped. Buttery, silky smooth. So in that respect, I am thrilled so far with my 3950X 2080 Super purchase. So far, it's been a worthy upgrade, absolutely, and I'm thrilled. But that's just the stock performance. What about overclocking? So I have yet to overclock the 3950X. I'm not even sure if I'm gonna do it yet. We'll see, I may make a video on it at some point. But I have overclocked the RTX 2080 Super, and I've gained, I'd say, a solid 8 to 11 frames per second on a lot of games, so that's a worthy overclock. And the program I first used, and again, I will have links in the description below if you want to use any of these programs for overclocking, but I used Msi Afterburner at first. So you look at Msi Afterburner here, the problem I had with it was I could up the power limit, I could up the temp limit, I upped the memory clock 650 megahertz, and I upped the core clock 115 megahertz. I feel like those were great values. Anything higher than 115 megahertz boost on the core clock, say 120, 125, a lot of the benchmark programs are crashing. So 650 on the memory clock and 115 on the core clock for the 2080 Super seems to be pretty much as far as you can push it. But the problem I was having with Msi Afterburner is I could not unlock the voltage here. It will not let me change the voltage no matter what I do. I tried some fixes online. People say try this, try that. Nothing would work. So if I can't feed the card more voltage, then I'm potentially losing some frames, right? So I said to hell with Msi Afterburner, and I downloaded the Precision X1 EVGA overclocker. Now, this bad boy has the same settings. You see here, I'm boosting the memory clock 650 megahertz. I'm boosting the core clock 115 megahertz. That's about as far as you can push it. I have the power maxed out. I have the GPU temp maxed out at 88. And right here though, the big one, the voltage, I have it maxed all the way out. So this card is getting as much power draw as it possibly can. And then if you right click really quick in NVIDIA control panel, and you bring up the manage 3D settings to make sure that the card is operating at absolutely full throttle, what I did was I came down here and you look at power management mode. I have prefer maximum performance. Typically this would be on optimal power or adaptive, something like that. I put it on prefer maximum performance, and then I put I put texture filtering quality on high performance. According to Jay's 2 cents, a popular YouTuber who really knows his computer stuff, really knows a lot about overclocking GPUs and CPUs, he recommended you put it on high performance here just to get a few more frames out of your GPU. He said that there is no discernible difference in texture quality when setting high performance as opposed to high quality. So those are the only 2 things I changed here. And then I ran the Overclock Benchmark tests, and it was very stable, no crashing, and I have some charts here to go over what sort of gains I realized. So first we'll look at Heaven, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Is it Heaven or Haven? I don't know. Anyway, so we have the RYZEN 3950X, my brand new build, stock down here, and then overclocked up here. So this is the average score in Haven when it was stock. So at 3537, and then overclocked 3785. So you're looking at like a 4 to 8% boost. Not substantial, but certainly worth it, right? Why not? And you saw a pretty good gain in average frames per second. So stock in Haven, I was getting about 140 frames per second, and then overclocked, I was getting about 150 frames per second. So that's a 10 frame boost. Why not, right? That's absolutely worth the overclock, in my opinion. And then on to 3D Mark. So again, 2020 stock and 2020 PC overclock. So we'll look at Time Spy first, which is in the blue here. So in Time Spy, I got 11707 on the stock. And then on overclock, I got 12546, a pretty decent little gain, you know, again, another about 4 to 8% gain. And then on Firestrike in 3D Mark, 25804 stock and 26917 overclocked. So a nice little boost there as well. So these overclock Time Spy and Firestrike scores, how do they compare to, say, other PCs out there in the wild? Is it top 75%? Is it top 80%? Is it top 99% of all PCs performing out there? Well, let's take a look. So Firestrike overclocked world rank, here we go. So the 26,917 score that I got puts it at 98% better. You see here, 98% better than all results from other PCs who have also run the same test. Whoa! This PC is a beast. Look at how it breaks down here. So a high-end gaming PC typically comes in somewhere around 23,700. My score was about 27,000, which places it in the top 2% of all tested PCs. And the most premium of premium PCs come in at about 35,141. So here you're talking about a $6,000 build probably. My PC was 3,000. If you want to get up to 35,000 in Firestrike, then you're probably gonna have to have some form of SLI. You're gonna have to have dual GPUs, and they're probably gonna be 2080 Ti's. That is, not many people have SLI 2080 Ti's. It's overkill, and quite frankly, it seems like dual GPUs like SLI and Crossfire are simply dying out. So I'm really, really happy with this 27,000 Firestrike score, as it is in the top 2%. And like I told you before, this new build that I have is not even for gaming. Gaming is sort of ancillary. It's nice. I'm certainly going to do some more gaming on my LG C10 at 120 frames per second, absolutely. But the primary function of my new build, as I've said many times before, is simply video editing. So I am very thrilled with these results. And then, of course, we can take a look at Time Spy, my overclock, where that ranks. So I got 12,546 score here. So that's not quite as high as Firestrike. You see here, overclocked, I'm better than 94% of all results, or all other PCs that have taken this Time Spy benchmark. So that puts me in the top 6% of all PCs that have done the Time Spy benchmark test. So not bad at all. Top 6% on Time Spy and top 2% on Firestrike. So I cannot complain whatsoever. My PC, my brand new PC, especially overclocked, has been performing great. My 4K rendering times are 3 to 4 times faster than they were with my old build. playing 8K video on YouTube is like butter, no lag, no drop frames. So it makes me wonder, should I overclock the Ryzen 3950X itself and eke out just a few more frames? I'm not sure. I've seen a few YouTubers overclock the 3950X and some of the results were mixed. Certain games seem to perform worse with an overclock as opposed to the stock setting. So I may just keep my 3950X at its stock frequencies and run with an overclocked 2080 Super, and then hopefully soon get the 3080, and then we'll overclock that bad boy, and hopefully by then we could be gaming 4K 120 on an HDMI 2.1 port.
Oh, that would be glorious.
So anyway, that's going to do it for me, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope you found it educational or helpful in some way. If you have, let me know in the comment section down below. Certainly leave a like, and if you have not done so, please subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. We'll see you guys later. Peace.